Hey, welcome back to Money on the Go, where I talk about all things money. My name is Maysal, and I just recently made the decision to leave the US and move abroad solo. I'm currently here living in Panama, specifically Panama City, and it's been an adventure. Panama City is very lively. Today, I would like to discuss what it took for me to financially feel comfortable enough to make the pivot and leave America. All right, well, first things first, I do not yet have enough money to be able to fully retire. So I'm still working towards living my life right now. Also working towards retirement, putting money away for the future, should we be fortunate enough to have one. I would love to one day reach my fire number and be fully retired. That day is not today, but I'm working on it. So, one of the first things I knew that I had to have for myself, at least in order to feel comfortable leaving the US, was enough money for a 9 month runway. And this is how I was able to calculate it. The first thing I did was look at my biggest expense. The biggest expense that I have for myself is my mortgage back home in Arizona. My mortgage recently, back in 2025, it was around 2,400 a month. Then in 2026, property taxes. Now it's around 2,600, actually closer to $2,700 a month. And so I knew I had to figure out a way to be able to cover the majority of that. Um, I was going to multiply the 2,700 by the 9 months and put that into savings. However, that was just a lot of money for the situation that I was in at the time. And so what I decided instead was to look and rent my house. Before I hired a property management company, I did my own comps. I used to live in an area before as renters. I remember what the rent was there. I had some other friends that didn't live too far away from the area where I purchased my home. I knew what their rent was. I went on Zillow, I went on Redfin, I figured out what the comps was in my neighborhood. And what I found was that I would be losing money every single month because a lot of property management companies have bought homes in the area that I am in. And so they're able to essentially set the rent price to whatever it is that they want. I do believe that they are in cahoots with mortgage companies, but we did not come here for factual conspiracy theories. I knew I was going to be losing anywhere between $400 to $700 a month. However, it was still significantly cheaper than losing out on $2,700 a month if my house was just sitting there empty. And I knew that was going to be a line item cost that I had for myself. So the first thing I did was bucketed $600 for 9 months for the mortgage gap that I was assuming I would be having. I also am responsible for my HOA for my property. That's around $100 a month. And so I also bucketed that, saved it for the 9 month that I was going to give myself of a runway as I worked to rebuild my life abroad. So that was around $900 in housing costs. I guesstimated that property management would probably have fees of about, from what I had read online, 10%, something like that. And so I also budgeted around $200 a month for property management fees, just as an estimate of what I would need to be able to leave. So that covered the core of my housing things. I needed to make sure that my mortgage was being paid because I wasn't willing to sell my house. Um, the economy right now in Arizona is caca, so it would just be losing too much money. And honestly, I still am not sure if I want to keep it for a legacy. The house thing took a long time to get, and so I still have a lot of emotions around it. If it could be something that I can give to my nieces and nephews after I pass, I'm not yet ready to make a decision about the home. So the thing that I felt was most beneficial for myself, that gave myself a lot more leeway, was to rent it out and just cover the costs. Now, once housing was covered, the next required bill that I went to was my student loans. The US government does not care where you're at. If you owe them debt, they will come and collect it. One of the things I did was calculate how much my student loan monthly payments are now. I've been paying towards my student loans since I graduated years, eons ago, and I still am owing them money like most Americans. My current student loan amount that I owe has gone down because as I keep paying off the balances and attacking one loan after the next, they are eventually going away, which is great. But what I owe the US government each month is around $206.63. And so I saved that times 9 months into a savings account as well because I just wanted to have the runway. The next thing that I'm keeping for myself is life insurance. I am Not yet sure about the house and what I want that legacy to be, but I definitely do know that I don't want anybody collecting money for my funeral. I think death is already a traumatic experience. I don't want my family to financially worry as well. And so that's one of the reasons I have life insurance, to cover costs, to be able to leave a legacy in that way. So if I do get rid of the house, because that's a stat, every month that gap that I pay for a place I'm not living in, it agitates my soul deeply. But the life insurance is just another thing that I want for myself and for my legacy and for my family. The next thing I looked at was my subscription. Unfortunately, Apple still has me buy a chokehold because I'm paying them for storage fees each month. I'm paying for one streaming service that I like each month. And then I'm also paying for video editing software. I ended up getting CapCut for under before they changed their pricing dynamic. And so I would never get rid of that if I can. if I can. If I can, I'm going to ride the wave as long as I can before that card expires and they reset me to the new rate. So I'm paying for those. That was a little under $35 a month. I calculated that for 9 months. I put that in the savings. I also factor in plane tickets from the different destinations, plane tickets from Arizona going to the various places, and I also put that into my budget as well. And then because I had a lot of things, I was calculating a storage unit, a 10 by 15. I figured that could be on the higher end, maybe $250 a month. So I put that times 12, actually, 12 months for the year because I didn't want to worry about it. Put that into a savings account as well for my things. And that's how I was able to see an estimate of what I needed to save and how much I needed to save in order to be able to feel free enough to go. And then for myself, in addition to the US bills that I have to pay, obviously, wherever I'm moving to, I need to pay bills there as well. I need to pay for housing, transportation, feeding myself, and activities because I'm a social person. I want to be able to go outside. And even if it's not an activity that I love, like massages, maybe it's an activity like a cooking class or something that costs, I don't know, even pickleball to play costs money. So $5. So most activities, unless you're hiking, most activities cost money, I would say. I just wanted to be able to experience activities. So I put myself a little budget as to how much that would be if you know, I enjoy getting my nails done. That as well. I kind of guesstimated how much I think my life abroad could cost or how much I wanted to spend, right, for my life abroad. I calculated how much I wanted to spend on rent, which I was thinking for monthly rent cost, I wanted it to be as close to $1,000 as possible. It's just me. I don't need a big place. I could be very comfortable in a studio. It's just me. And then I looked at countries where I would like to live. I don't like snow, so that eliminated a lot of places for me. I like major airports. That also helped me keen in and dial into which countries I would like. I like seasoned food. So that also helped me narrow down the countries that I think I could potentially live in. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm abroad, checking out these countries, seeing where do I feel myself settling long term or settling for a couple years and then moving on. Basically, that's why I'm currently here in Panama. I'm enjoying Panama City. Panama is very lively. The people have been kind. I feel as though in Panama, it is possible to find community. It is possible to find people who have the same interests as you because there's so many different things you can get into depending on what it is that you like. So I've really been enjoying that aspect of Panama, even though I am getting used to the humidity. The humidity has been very, 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 very interesting. And the sun index is much higher. It has to be higher because I noticed that even though I put sunscreen on, I'm an advocate of sunscreen. I put sunscreen on before I leave, and I still sometimes get even more chocolatey. So it's the weather here is very it's taking getting used to. But I will say that what I do appreciate about Panama, the difference from Arizona, even though they're both hot, is that if the AC stopped working here, right in Panama, knock on wood, you'd still be okay. If the AC stopped working in Arizona, you would not be okay. And so that gives me solace, even though I'm in the tropics, that I'll be fine. So if you're looking to leave, Maybe for yourself, your runway could be 6 months. Maybe for yourself, your runway is 3 months. It really depends on what your financial situation is and what makes you feel comfortable. You don't want to leap forward without feeling comfortable. I feel like as though not having that sense of safety within yourself, within your budget, is what causes a lot of people to give up on their dreams of living abroad, give up on what it is that they want for themselves because they don't give themselves, they're not honest with themselves and they're not comfortable. So you really need to look and see what dollar amount will make me feel comfortable to be able to take the leap and then do that. It might be less than what you're thinking. There might be a way that you work, save the money and go for a little bit. It might be that you're able to go for 3 months and you have to come back and work depending on what your job is. I know a lot of people within the healthcare industry work as PRNs. So you per diem and you can choose when you go and do your shifts. That's what I used to do back in the day when I also worked in healthcare. There are many different avenues in order to be able to live a life that's more fully yours. And I'm just encouraging folks to look and see. The cost for leaving may not be as astronomical as you think it is. Please let me know what questions you have down below. And until next time.